Hello, welcome back to the Conservative Colonel podcast. This is not Harrison. Once again, I'll be your co-host today, Graves Baker. I've got Sam Biafore back with me again. Seems like this is becoming a trend. If Harrison can't make it, it's us.
I'm backup, so it is what it is. But I haven't been on here since I think the last one I
Shoot,
was on was I think
election?
it was right after the election. Yeah, we were
Yeah,
talking about like the recaps of election day and like states that were still counting the votes, like Arizona and California. Um,
it probably
that
was
was-
the November 6th, the next day. I remember that because I was not feeling great that day, and I'll leave it there.
yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
But that was a very happy day. And you'd been on before that, and especially when it's
Hmm.
like this, where, he's trusting me to get an episode done for him and you come in to help. I definitely appreciate it because your job is research.
Hmm. Right.
So,
Well, what's honestly kind of crazy is that even after winning the election, awesome, great. You think it would slow down? No, it's been crazy since because Donald
yeah,
Trump is inhuman and
he does not
moves
sleep.
fast. He does not sleep. He does not slow down. He's just moving, 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 moving. And yesterday was his 1 month in office.
Hmm.
So it's kind of crazy how the month already went by and it's just been this. It's been insane.
I bet you've been
The
really busy.
the speed that everything has moved, it's unheard of. I don't think government never moves this fast ever.
No, no, they
So
like to sit around and not do anything. And, part of what we wanted to talk about first kind of has to do with that. They'll sit around and not do anything to help you, but they'll send all of our taxes overseas for dumb things. And then when we start to root that out and we start to look into it, where's this money actually going? Is it actually showing up to the places that we're saying it's going? Who's getting kickbacks? Who's doing this or that? And why are we spending money on this? The Democrats, who have been in charge the last 4 years, they're freaking out. And so are the citizens, saying that, oh, Elon Musk is not an elected official. Well, neither is or are any of the cabinet members. Neither is George Soros, who gets so many district attorneys that try to stop Trump elected. I mean, the bureaucracy goes extremely deep, but when it's not them that's rooting out all this fraud and whatever else is happening, they get extremely mad and are protesting all around the country when it's offering you a chance at maybe getting a $5,000, maybe even more than that check, possibly. But why not get rid of all this stuff? Why are they mad? Because they're corrupt.
well, I mean, it kind of goes into like you said. Why are more people not mad about the actual waste than they are at like Elon and Doge?
Yeah,
Say what you want about Elon, whatever. Say what you want about Doge, whatever. People can have their opinions, but the actual waste itself, this is what our taxpayer dollars went towards, is a bunch of dumb pet projects like
yeah.
$2 million promoting tourism to Lebanon, $1.5 million for DEI in Serbia, 70K for a DEI musical in Ireland, uh, millions of dollars for people to become climate leaders, 20 million for Sesame Street in Iraq. That's still the funniest one. And like, it, I should be mad that that's what my taxpayer dollars went to, but it's also funny at the same time. But again, that's what our money went to. We spent money on stuff like that. We didn't, but the government did.
Right.
It's all these pet projects that they think is a good idea or that they just want to do. The government gets money, they're going to spend it. It's not, doesn't matter to them. Government gets money, they just want to spend it on whatever.
And we
And this is why
finally have people maybe trying to stop that, and they're mad. I mean, they also print it. If they don't get the funding out of taxes, they'll print it. But we're not doing that anymore, and people are losing their kickbacks.
I don't know if it'll necessarily lead to a balanced budget, but it could certainly be the start of one.
I mean, yeah.
We actually have a budget, and we actually have our finances under control for once. Within the last, however many decades, essentially.
I would have to look that up. It's been a long time.
It's ridiculous, and the fact that more people are mad about Elon and Doge finding out the waste than they are about the actual waste is astronomical. You even had Chuck Schumer saying, yeah, there's waste, but there's better ways to go about it. Okay, how? Government does not shrink itself. The government will never shrink itself.
Yeah, if he thinks that, and he's a senator, he's been there for forever. If he thinks that the Senate or the Congress, the House, because they're both Congress, if he thinks the Senate or House is going to get that done by itself, that, he doesn't even believe that. That's what he would think the other way about going to do this would be is, Congress gets it done itself. They were never going to look into that. They're the ones that are letting it happen. They're the ones that make the spending bills. So we had to have something like this to even get it done.
And I think it's, again, having an outside person come in and looking at everything and just being, this is stupid, this is stupid, this is stupid, this is stupid. Get rid of it. You don't need it. Just get rid of it. And even the idea of getting, I don't know if you would call it a reimbursement check, but all the money that Doge has saved from not spending all this money on, again, pet projects and stupid goals or whatever they were trying to do, giving that money back to taxpayers is like $5,000, right? $5,000 is a lot of money. And you have people in Congress like Jasmine Crockett saying, oh, well, we're not in the business of giving out money. You had no problem giving money to other countries. You had no
and illegal immigrants.
You had no problem giving money to illegal immigrants. You had no problem with any of that. We spent billions on all that. But actual American taxpayers getting a $5,000 check. And then you saying, well, what are people going to do with $5,000? That's literally like 5 months of my rent. That's literally that could be my rent. That could just be savings. Maybe I could put that in the stock market and
everything else you make
be a capitalist. You have opportunities and options. But the only time that you ever give Americans any kind of money or anything is $700 to people in North Carolina getting affected by hurricanes, or $700 to Hawaii after the fires. You have no problem giving, as little money as you possibly can, the bare minimum, probably. It's ridiculous. We finally have a government that wants to do something, that actually wants to get stuff done. Again, it's been a month. It's only been a month.
Right.
We got another 4 years to go. It's astronomical. And you have people in Congress, between both the House and the Senate, that just hate everything about it. And you have an administration that wants to get things done. Pam Bondi says she's got the Epstein files on her desk. Director of Housing Urban Development is getting rid of a bunch of the DEI contracts, projects, whatever you want to call them, out of her Housing Urban Development. Pete Hegseth wanting to root out DEI within the Department of Defense.
And we also officially banned transgender people from joining the military.
See, I saw that. I saw that too. And then we also now have an executive order banning transgender, keeping men out of women's sports and vice versa. We have
Yeah.
that also. And that was he did
Well,
a big celebration for it too.
the governor of Maine is trying to go against that, which we saw the clip of, Trump literally asking her face to face, "Are you going to go against that?" And she basically said yes. And then she said she would see him in court. And he said, "Okay, that's fine. I'll see you in court." That'll be an easy one. And I hope you enjoy in literal quotes here, "I hope you enjoy the rest of your life, Governor, because after, I don't think you're going to be in elected politics."
What's funny, she's already term limited in 26. That governor's already term limited. So what else is
I
she
guess
going
he
to
was
do?
right.
He's not wrong, actually.
Yeah.
It's really funny, but again, why you have elected officials being mad that you're finding the waste and wanting to get rid of it from ridiculous projects, like completely gutting U.S. aid and actually, fixing up
Over
that department.
It's over $1 trillion now that if Congress actually acts, that the American people, support cutting over $1 trillion from what we have heard and they have found. If Congress actually acts, look, we're talking about roughly a 2 trillion budget deficit every single year. And it could be less because, we're probably not printing as much money under Trump, compared to COVID. We had to at that
Right.
point.
Yeah.
But what's going to happen now is we're going to cut back spending, save all this money, and even before we send it back to the people, I hope that does happen. Everybody would love that. But the American people already support Congress cutting this stuff that we've been talking about. So if they don't do it, then that's just another reason to, hey, get these rhinos out, vote against these Democrats, especially the Democrats are the ones that are mostly yelling and screaming about finding this stuff. So,
Well, it's funny whenever you talk about voting people out and everything. Obviously, midterms will be in 26, and not only are there several uh, offices that are term limited anyway, you have people that have been in Congress between the House and the Senate. They've been in politics, been in the government for over like a couple of decades. Once you hit like that over a couple of decades mark, what are you doing?
yeah,
Especially in the case of Mitch McConnell, who I believe is the longest serving senator, I think, ever. He got elected in 84. We're in 25 now, so he's been in there 40 years. And he finally just said he's retiring. How do
yeah.
you stay there for that long? First of all, why would you want to stay there that long? Who wants to be a
And
senator for
when
40
was the
years
last
and deal
time?
with the government for 40 years? That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
And,
there's people that have been there longer. But
oh,
for
yeah.
Mitch, back in the early 2010s, he was kind of seen as a force, like someone who could kind of get stuff done and would really push hard for what he wanted to do. And really, even before he started to freeze up and fall down all over the place, he kind of lost that. Like he turned into something else. So we've been wanting him to go for a long time. He just wasn't going to lose his seat.
No, it's Kentucky we're talking about. It's a solid red state, even though they have a Democrat governor because he's a nepo baby because his dad was a governor, so of course he got to be a governor.
Yeah,
So it's just finally that era is kind of ending, and you still have a couple people there kind of like that. Lisa Murkowski being one of them, and
mm-hmm.
she's also a nepo baby. Her dad was a governor, had to appoint a senator. He appointed her. That's how she became a senator, and she's been winning ever since. And she also protects the ranked choice voting in Alaska, which is basically kind of like a built-in
Yeah,
popularity contest. So that's how
yeah.
she's. The
That's
people know the name, so they vote for her. They voted for her dad. They'll vote for her. You still have the problem children like that. You've got Murkowski, you've got Susan Collins from Maine. They're not going to always vote. They're not going to always vote with you. It just is what it is with Maine. Alaska, her seat's up in 28. And of all the people still in the Senate, it's her, Collins, and Bill Cassidy from Louisiana that are the only senators around that voted to impeach Trump. They're the only ones left. Everyone else is gone.
So that kind of blows my mind. I'm not going to lie that a guy from Louisiana voted to impeach Trump, because that's a red state.
It's a blood red state, and they finally just now got a Democrat governor, or not Democrat governor, but a Republican governor back in 23. So they now have a supermajority between their state House, Senate, and the governorship. So
it didn't work out well for him, did it? He'll probably lose this next time.
We'll see what happens. I think I just think it's going to be interesting. On the flip side, too, you have also Democrats that will be there for years. Like Bernie Sanders is a clear example of someone that's probably like just staying a senator and ending as a senator. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Dianne Feinstein died in office, and she was there for like 30 years. She slipped.
Yeah.
Her mind was just gone. She was just old. She was in her 90s, and she passed away in office.
And
these people just don't want to leave, especially if in like a solid seat or something. They just want to die in office.
Yeah, quickly that we already talked about Mitch, and then now you talked about her. I think term limits continue to need to be brought up, because we can't have people that are almost dying and falling down everywhere and can't speak, that are running or making huge decisions, really, especially if they're in the Senate for our government.
Especially if there's there's more than likely along that timeline going to be like a conflict of interest somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, like the lieutenant governor of Mississippi passing out while he's presiding over the Senate.
Man, I saw that too. I was flabbergasted. I was like, what's going on down in Mississippi? I sent it to like a couple of you guys down in that state. I'm like, dude, what is happening in Mississippi? Is this normal?
That was the way that I found out about it. But we have talked badly, Harrison and I, about Delbert Hosemann, the lieutenant governor here, quite often. But you don't wish that on anybody. And the rumors are that he may have had a heart attack after the fact. He was, something happened. It wasn't that serious. He walked out of the building when it was all over. He was attended to and seemed fine. He even made a joke, I believe, when he walked out. But the rumors are that he had a heart attack later on, and was hospitalized. Again, like I said, rumor. I cannot confirm that, but he is the same age as the mayor of Batesville. He is 1 year younger than Donald Trump. Some people are able to be that age without that happening, but some people are not. And, at some point, if that is the case, maybe this should be his last term. We don't need people dying in office and having to have special elections and stuff. If your health is deteriorating, you should probably get out, and we need to have term limits anyway. I don't care if it's state level. We definitely need it in Congress, but, we need it everywhere. Most state levels at least do have some restrictions.
Some form of them anyway.
Yeah. But federally,
honestly, we're just seeing more and more. How you said Mitch McConnell is like a force, he can get things done. Nancy Pelosi was kind of like that with the Democrats. She has so much pull in the House.
Mm-hmm.
She was just able to work with everyone. She was Speaker, obviously. And she's not even the minority leader anymore. It's Hakeem Jeffries now.
Right.
But as soon as the 24 election was over, she filed to run again in 26. And she's been there since the 80s. And now, look what's happening. She fell down the stairs. I think she's fallen down twice now. She's in her 80s. I've actually seen her in person.
Wasn't she wearing a boot on her foot for like a day.
Something like that. I think she was wearing something like that. It wasn't to the point of like Mitch McConnell. He was in like a wheelchair. I don't know if you ever saw that video. He's in a wheelchair. He had to get
Yeah,
basically helped into like his car or like the transport vehicle, whatever.
yeah.
I don't think it was necessarily that bad or to that point, but she's also not doing good herself either. And
I mean, they're
it's
at
just
that
age. Age
age.
catches up with you. They're
Yeah,
old. They're in their 80s.
yeah.
Go be a grandpa. Go be a grandma. Go retire. Spend time with your grandkids. Go bird watch. Do something. Go have hobbies outside of sending trillions of dollars to foreign countries.
Right.
Go,
And,
go do something else. Go feed the ducks, not feed missiles to Iraq.
or
Like, come
Afghanistan.
on.
Why have we sent billions of dollars to Afghanistan, who's now run by the Taliban since we had that disastrous retreat?
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
I don't understand
Dude,
that.
I I can only imagine being in the halls of Congress between the House and the Senate. I can only
Oh,
imagine what it's
they would censor me the first
like.
week I was there, because I would
you,
lay into every single liberal, like more than I'm doing here. Like I
yeah,
try to. It's not my podcast. I can't get Harrison flagged more than I already have. But if I was in
you,
Congress,
Graves, you'd be on a list. I don't know what kind of list, but it's just a list.
oh, if
I
we
don't
were
even know
both
what that's
there, we'd
about
both
me.
be on the list.
I don't know what would happen to me, man. I couldn't tell you.
We'd both be
Um,
on the list if we were there. I'm telling you.
oh man, nah, that's but it kind of goes back into the point of what we're trying to make is once you hit a certain age, just why do you want to keep continuing to be in politics? Why do you want to be in the federal, even state government? Like I can see being involved in like your state, doing like community service activities or helping maybe the next generation of people, help them, pave the way and get elected and help have them learn from you. But when it
Hmm.
comes to the federal government, it's just always people just get weird. They never once they get to the federal government, they never want to leave. You have the cases of like senators or congressmen, wanting to go in to run for something on the state level,
Right.
like Mike Braun, who's a senator from Indiana. He just became the governor of Indiana. He just won the election. There's stuff like that. You want to go back to your state and leave the federal government.
Yeah.
It's shocking people actually want to leave the federal government. Um,
It's not supposed to be a place where you spend your entire life there,
it was
for
it didn't
benefits.
start that way. It was never intended to be that way.
Right. But it's also weird to me that not only are the Democrats freaking out about, what we're finding was being spent on, or, money that never arrived anywhere, but it's also funny to me that these people make 180,000. They keep giving themselves, pay increases,
Yeah,
but they're also worth millions or hundreds of millions of dollars, even if they've only been in Congress for a couple of years. It does not add up.
yeah.
There's
There's
especially
certainly
with.
been there's certainly been people on both sides of the aisle, Republican and Democrat, that have wanted pay increases because
Mhm.
their example is just, oh well, like DC is expensive to live in. I have a place here in DC, but I also have my place back home in my district or state that I represent. Okay, then make DC affordable. What? No one was supposed to live in DC. You weren't supposed to live in DC. You just work in DC and then leave.
Now it's almost got like a million people in the population. It's not as, it's big, sort of, but it's not as big as people would think. I think it's less than a million people. Maybe if you bring in the suburbs and stuff, it's different. But I think it's like, last time I looked, it was probably 800,000 people that live there. It should not be a state. That is why we moved the central part of the federal government to a place that is not, an actual state. This was something that the founding fathers wanted.
To
So
harp on your point, I've got the population in DC right here. According to the census from 23, this is when the population was taken. It's 678,000 people.
okay, so I was even more.
Like, like sure, it's more than Wyoming. It's more than Wyoming, but Wyoming's like the least populated state in all the U.S. But
Yes,
it goes back to my
just
point.
land.
DC was never supposed to be that like a state or anything. People weren't supposed to live in DC. They were just supposed to work there and leave. You
Mm-hmm.
weren't supposed to be in DC for the rest of your life, and that's just what I guess ended up happening. People just stayed and didn't want to leave, and they've been there since. And
Yep.
that's not the way it should have been. If you want to, talk about a pay increase, make DC more affordable to live. Actually, do something about crime in DC. Do something about pricing in DC. Don't make it expensive to live. Lower the taxes. Do something to make it more affordable.
I
Then
bet the
then
taxes
we
are
can
high.
talk. Oh, taxes are the minimum wage in DC now is like $20 an hour. $20 an hour for minimum wage in DC.
What are you paying? $15 for a cheeseburger by itself?
The cheeseburger is easily like $25. What are you talking about?
$25.
Dude, I guarantee you, just drinks at a bar are $15. Just the drinks.
Oh
That's
my
not food. That's a
gosh!
drink. That's a cocktail at a bar in DC. Yeah,
Wow.
I'm telling you, man, it's an expensive place for no reason.
Look, I mean, I think that the minimum wage should be raised from $7.25. Nobody can live on that. But if you're going to put it to 20 or 25 immediately, yeah, you're going to end up with prices like that.
It's ridiculous. But I mean, that's not what I do, so I guess I can't complain. I don't live there, so
Well,
not,
not anymore.
not my not my monkey, not my circus.
Not anymore, thank goodness. But we've got a couple more things to talk about. I'm going to take a commercial break real quick so that Harrison doesn't get in trouble with his sponsors. So we'll be right back. And if I can figure out how to actually, is this, yeah, there we go. Cool.
Praise God.
All right, welcome back to the Conservative Colonel podcast. You're here with Graves Baker and Sam Biafore, and we got a couple more things to talk about here. We're going to start off with the Department of Education. My mother was a public school teacher for most of her, work life, and this is something I grew up around with her being a teacher. Now I went to private school, but I've always had some pretty strong thoughts about the Department of Education. I don't think, from what I'm hearing recently, we're going to be able to get rid of it, at least not anytime soon. Hopefully, in the second half, it might be possible. But the Department of Education, a lot of people are saying, was created by Jimmy Carter through an executive order. It's actually created through Congress. Now, it was something he pushed, but Congress is the ones that actually got it done. So we would have to actually get Congress to go through with it, which means we would probably have to win the 2026 midterm elections again because we have to do stuff in process before that. Now, that's the 26 elections we're going to get into in a little bit. But the Department of Education was created officially in 1979. America was number one in the world in education pretty much every country would have admitted that back then. Since then, I believe we're in the 20s now. I could look that up, but I have other things. Since then, not only has the cost of college gone up 180% since the inception of the Department of Education, math scores are basically the exact same and have fluctuated between being worse and a tiny bit better. Science has consistently been a little bit below what it was in 1979. The cost of all this stuff is not worth the education that people are getting. I hope we can get rid of it because $14 billion was the budget of it when it was created. It's up to 238 billion, and it's only gotten worse. The reading scores are the worst that they have ever been. My mom did not like No Child Left Behind at all, which was pushed by the Bush administration. She did not like that at all. She says that, the Department of Education never really did what it was, promised to do or anything. But when Bush started pushing that was really the downfall. That's when it really started to get worse, according to her. And this is a public school teacher of 35 years. But today, we are seeing in Mississippi, we've kind of gotten away from the federal government in Mississippi just by stuff that we're doing here legislatively. And Mississippi last year was the only state in the country to have an improvement on their fourth grade reading scores and math scores. We were number one in the country in both of that in fourth grade. In eighth grade, we were the only state, tied for first with, I don't know what other state it was, but tied for first in science scores. So Mississippi, while everybody talks about 49th in the country, if you get away from the Department of Education legislatively and start trying to do things through your own state, which if we get rid of it, will allow that to happen in every state, the improvement is there. Because we were number one in the whole world before, and now we've just substantially dropped. Mississippi and Florida even are great examples of what you can do if it's not federalized. So that's kind of my spiel on the Department of Education. That's just some numbers, statistics, and stuff. But it's just mind-blowing that people are freaking out over the fact we might get rid of it when it was so much better beforehand. And all this extra money did nothing.
Well, you bring that up into conversation. I knew before the Department of Education, I at least had an idea that we were a little bit better off without the Department of Education because, of course, once the government got its hands and everything, it ended up being, what the government does best and, just completely taking control of it and it going down the drain.
Yep.
That's what happened. It's just with Department of Education, and even you can even go into the teachers union too. They just push stuff that you don't need to know. It's things that who cares if you learn like the history of the LGBT, or if you learn the history of some random species that'll never ever be existing ever again. It's ridiculous. It goes back into spending, and it goes back into actually appropriating money towards useful projects and things like that. You don't need any of the stupid stuff that no other country is doing. You think China or Asian countries, Hispanic countries teach history of LGBT or allyship or anything like that? No, they teach math, they teach science, they teach history.
And if they move here, they become the most successful and wealthiest group of people because they were taught normal things that actually make them smarter, not, hey, you can be one of any, 1,000 pronouns or 400 genders. If you're a boy, it doesn't mean you have to be a boy. You can be a girl. No, they don't teach that anywhere else. People laugh at us because of that. And
it's ridiculous.
Also, you see all these people even out of college now, people in public school and high school or middle school, junior high, whatever, they're not as liberal. They go to college and become extremely liberal.
Yeah.
We don't need the federal government pushing what we should be teaching people because, look, if California wants to teach their people to be transgender, let them. I'm not going to be there. My kids are not going to go there. But guess what? Mississippi's not doing that. Texas isn't going to do it. Florida, you name it. Leave it up to the states. Don't let the federal government say that Mississippi should be teaching you can change your gender.
Well, I have nothing else to say. You kind of just took the words out of my mouth there, actually, Graves. I'm going to keep it a buck. I thought I had something more. No, you hit it on the head. But I think what it mainly comes down to is, what's going to be able to happen within the next couple of years. We've obviously got midterms next year, so we've got this year to really get things hammered out within the first 100 days. Obviously, we're 30 down, got 70 more to go. 31 now as of today. And right now, the 26 midterms, Democrats have more seats to defend than we do, which is a good thing. It's kind of like, I think it's kind of how it was for 24. Even though we still have a slim majority in like the House,
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, we still have a very slim majority. Which, I mean, we still have a couple special elections to go through, so we're going to get some more bodies in Congress in Florida because Matt Gaetz, his seat is vacant. Mike Waltz's seat is also vacant because Matt Gaetz resigned and Mike Waltz is serving in the Trump administration. They just need to figure out New York and figure out that seat because Stefanik also has to go serve in the administration at some point. So they got to figure that out. But there's also a few seats you could pick up that are right now being held by Democrats, but these districts voted for Trump, and I think what mainly happened is mainly one of them was a down ticket issue being in North Carolina. Even though Trump won that state, their governor's race and the down ticket really screwed over everybody else. So there's one district there that voted for Trump that is being held by a Democrat. So maybe this time around you could flip it. There's another district that voted for Trump, but Democrat has been there for 40 years. It's Marcy Kaptur in Ohio. Basically, it's like the Toledo area. And she's been there for 40 years. She's been there since the 80s. It's just hard to get rid of her. And Maine's second district, because Maine is one of the states, Maine and Nebraska, those are the only two states that do this, but one of their districts can split out an electoral vote towards someone, and this district in particular splits out their vote to Republican. So it's just also got a Democrat there right now. Maine's just a weird state. Maine has a Democrat governor, a Republican senator, and their other senator is an independent that caucuses with Democrats. It's a weird state. And Washington's third district, it had a Republican there before, but that Republican was one of the 10 that impeached Trump. So she got booted out in that primary, but then the candidate that beat her lost in the general to a Democrat. So, and it's the same guy that ran in 24, lost to her again, and so maybe in 26, if we have someone else, we can finally flip that seat. But that's enough ranting about that.
Well, I mean, we need to flip more seats, and if the Democrats keep acting the way that they are about the things that we pointed out earlier in the episode, they're not going to win for a while. They have a better chance at winning a midterm than they do a presidential election right now, which is weird to say, but that's because it's at the state level. But
I think that's also kind of trippy too, is that Democrats, I think, are completely in disarray. I don't think they know what direction they want to go in. They went so far left. How are you going to bring those people that are not coming into the middle?
They have so many.
Can you even bring them in the middle?
No,
is that possible? They just went through a new election for the DNC, so the DNC has a new chair, co-chair, whatever. The DNC chair was talking about all these different states. Of course, he brought up the swing states like North Carolina, Nevada, Wisconsin, all those states, what they want to do there. But then he brought up Illinois. Why do you need to bring up Illinois? Illinois is a blue state. It has been for a long time now. Is something going on in Illinois that maybe we don't know about? Is there a a rightward shift in Illinois. We saw a graph where the entire country, a lot of the country, moved to the right this
Every
cycle.
single state, actually, it was all 50 states had a, whether it was 0.1% or more, every single state still had a somewhat of a shift to the right.
Like Texas went the most right this time around. Texas, this is Texas we're talking about. Even California went right. The entire right half of the state was red.
Yeah, what Trump won Texas by like 28, and Democrats were like, it's going to go blue.
They
Yeah.
keep trying to make blue
Okay.
Texas happen. It's not happening. It's certainly not happening the way they think it is.
No, they
when it
thought
comes to
bringing in all these illegal immigrants, you let them in, they're going to vote Democrat. I'm telling you something. I had a lot of Mexican people who were legal, but still Mexican people on my team, whether it was in Wisconsin, Texas, Georgia, New Mexico, it didn't matter where I was. I had a lot of Mexican people working for me. They do not want illegal immigration. Texas, just because you bring in a lot of Mexicans, it's not going to go blue just because of that. But that was their strategy.
They flee socialism. They don't want socialism.
Yeah, and they hate
It's
the
like
cartels and people that commit crimes all the time. They don't. It's just like white people, but we're racist if we don't want illegal immigrants. So.
well, you know what's really funny? Now that you're bringing that up, there is they did a clip on, I think it was Fox, where they said like illegal border crossings have been so low now that there's more border patrol agents than there are crossings.
Good. That's amazing.
The winning just doesn't stop. The winning just
really
does not
does.
stop. But when it comes to the Senate, there's a couple good opportunities for us to pick up. Georgia, I think, being like the main one. If their governor run, they've done polling, a couple different polls now, where it's him and the Democrat that's currently in that seat, John Ossoff, I think is how you say his last name. The governor, Brian Kemp, would beat Ossoff. He's got the name. Him and Trump made up. They had some tips before, but they made up. And then Michigan, now that senator is retiring. So that's another good one to pick up too. Minnesota, that senator is also retiring, but I still see it being blue. I looked today. Minnesota, a Republican president candidate hasn't won Minnesota since '72, and that was Nixon. So it's been Democrat president. It's voted Democrat for president since the '70s, and I think it's purely because of like the top area of Minnesota and then Minneapolis. That's like the blue spots in that state.
Close to Canada and then the big cities.
Exactly. And I think the only seats that Republicans really have to worry about is Maine and North Carolina. North Carolina, it's a swing state. The seat still kind of leans red right now, but it's just a state. Well, we have to defend it. It is what it is. Same thing with Maine. It is what it is. But there's a couple of good pickups in Georgia and Michigan. This cycle, flipping 4 seats was just wild because we flipped the seat in West Virginia, so my home state. It's really funny because like that seat, whenever Manchin was still there, the Democrat, whenever he was there, it was a toss-up. Like you didn't really know who was going to win. As soon as he said he was retiring, the seat immediately went to like a solid red seat. It was just immediate,
just like the rest of the state. What was what was the election result there? Like, did he run against or whoever it is run against a Democrat?
Yeah, so Jim Justice ran against the Democrat was Glenn Elliott, who was the mayor of Wheeling, but nobody really knew who he was. He got blown out. If that's the question you're asking, it was a blowout. It took West Virginia like 10, 15 minutes to like certify their results on election night. But we flipped Ohio. We have a Republican in Ohio with Sherrod Brown. or with Bernie Moreno beating Sherrod Brown. Montana, Tim Sheehy beat John Tester. So you flip that seat, and I mean the last one, which I was kind of surprised by, was Dave McCormick beating Bob Casey Jr. And Dave McCormick, they were trying to fight those results
for a while. 2 weeks. I remember that.
Yeah, Dave McCormick, like Bob Casey, just refused to concede for like 2 weeks. He did not concede whatsoever. It got to the point where like even the governor was like, I think the governor basically said, "Okay, we got to end this. This is getting out of hand."
And he's a Democratic governor.
Exactly. Who's very liked. Speaking of governors, in those seats anyway, there's toss-ups on both sides. Kansas is going to probably lean red this time, so maybe we can finally get rid of the Kansas Democrat governor, who she recently had a bill brought to her desk, and it was a bill that would basically, it was something about like gender affirming care for minors. It passed to like try to get rid of it or anything like that. So it went through the state house and state senate. She killed the bill, but then the House vetoed her veto. It was about banning gender affirming care for minors. Of course, she didn't like it because she's a Democrat, and Democrats want to trans kids for some reason. But anyways, it got vetoed. She's term limited, so hopefully we can. So we should hopefully be able to flip that seat, but we'll see.
I would think so. I would hope so.
The main one that I'm very curious about is Arizona, because Arizona and Wisconsin, they have Democrat governors, and they're up for re-election.
Yeah, because Katie Hobbs is,
Katie Hobbs she also vetoed a bill that basically would have sped up election counting to be able to find out elections the same day.
That happened, right?
It did this week. It went through the state house and went through the state senate. Republicans control those chambers. Got to her desk and she killed it. It's to make the elections more efficient and to find out things on that night. But she vetoed. She killed it. Stupid.
She is extremely. I actually believe, again, for YouTube etc. This is my opinion. Illegitimate governor. It's an opinion, so you can't. It's my First Amendment. But there was so much going on in Arizona. Well, we won it by 5% this time. Arizona was a red state in 2020. I'm telling you. Same with 22.
I think it was like the highest margin of the swing states.
I believe it was, yeah. Because I was in Wisconsin and we had the lowest.
Mm-hmm. That governor's up for re-election. Republicans, again, control both those chambers. And he just introduced a bill or something today that he wants to basically change the word mother to, oh my gosh.
What, birthing person?
Something like that. Something stupid like that. It was something along this line. It removes the term mother. It introduces bill to remove the term mother from state law, and it would change it to inseminated person.
What?
Whatever that means.
That is crazy.
It's Tony Evers. He doesn't make any sense. And then Michigan is also open. Gretchen Whitmer's term limited. She's just crazy. She's got crazy eyes. She scares me.
Most liberals do have crazy eyes.
Big Gretch feeding that one podcaster that was on her knees like a Dorito or something like that. Do you remember that video?
Talking about when they were trying to get people to take the COVID vaccine or what?
No, this was like she was on like the campaign trail for Kamala Harris. She had like the Harris Walls hat, the Harris Walls camo hat, and she was like feeding this one podcaster was on her knees, and she's like feeding the podcaster that's on her knees like chips or something, It just pans back there. I'll find the video. I'll send it to you. It was wild.
It
Somehow
sounds
they
wild.
thought that was going to make people vote for Kamala Harris. I don't know.
Oh,
But
well, I mean, it's the same. They thought that bringing up Rihanna or Beyonce or whoever it was and Cardi B and stuff, that was going to make people vote for, Taylor Swift crying about Donald Trump possibly winning again back in like 22 or something. I mean, it's they're so out of touch, and that's why they keep losing. That's why that if we now here's the thing, 2026 elections, we can't just say, well, if they keep acting like that, they're going to lose, or they're so out of touch, they're going to lose. We have to
no,
actually prove it to people, show it to people, talk to people about it. We still have to fight to win these elections. We can't just get comfortable.
it's like they're just going to throw money. I think is what their game plan probably will be, is just throw money at it. They've
Oh,
got
they're
all the
good at
money.
that.
They've
Yeah.
got the money. They have the resources. But then you have people like Scott Pressler, honestly doing a lot of work with voter registrations. Arguably, the guy flipped Pennsylvania, or helped Trump win Pennsylvania, and he's still doing voter registration in Pennsylvania. He wants to Florida Pennsylvania, essentially, makes it like a Republican stronghold. And he's trying to do the same thing in New Jersey, because even New Jersey was within swing state odds this election,
Yeah.
which it went from like a Biden winning by like over 10% to within, swing state odds this cycle. So I guess he sees potential there in New Jersey, and that's why he's there. The only states that we have to really worry about is Virginia has an election this year in 25. Right now it's a toss-up. Then Georgia is a toss-up. And Georgia's only a toss-up because of Atlanta and Savannah. So the blue parts of it, really. And probably some other, a couple small little areas too, but that's really it.
There's, Columbus, but it doesn't even really have that big of a population. It's just a very blue city. So, I mean, like 200,000 max, maybe less than this, probably less than that, maybe 100,000. But
and then the last toss-up is Nevada, which there's now more Republicans in Nevada than Democrats, and that's how much the state is trending that far red. They just need to figure out a way to get the state legislature figured out, and even I think that their Supreme Court too. Their Supreme Court, I think, is a little messed up on the state level. It's the gerrymandering of Clark County. That's it. That's why Democrats have 3 seats. Is because
true.
Their first district with Dina Titus, it's pretty blue. That's Henderson.
There's a district in Nevada that takes up like over half of the state.
That's the second district. It's literally the top half of the state. It's all the desert.
It's all rural and like nobody lives there. Yeah.
And then Horsford has that's 4. He just has North Vegas. And
we had some. You and I had some involvement in a race against Horsford back when St. Peter's was running.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the good old days. But like where we lived, I believe in Susie Lee's district too at one point in time, and man, I want to see her go. Man, I don't like her. They actually were all pulled up together. They were mad that Trump was supporting the whole no tax on tips thing, and they're like, oh, well, he's just jumping on the bandwagon. We've been wanting this forever. Okay, then why didn't you do it? Stupid. Speaking of the DNC, I forgot to mention that one of their co-chairs, David Ogg, got caught, I will say allegedly, funneling money, using the DNC donor list or email list, getting donations to a PAC that he has that he gets paid with. So, that's what the Democrats are already doing. You have a guy talking about doing stuff in Illinois for the chair, and then the vice chair is allegedly stealing money. So, sky's the limit for Democrats, I think, at this point. Yeah. And then, at least this time around, I believe, anyway, that we have an RNC that wants to win. They actually want to go win under the oversight of Michael Watley, who's the chair, and they just elected a new co-chair. Laura Trump left the co-chair position, and they have a new
I
co-chair
was
now.
wondering about that.
I think she's from Tennessee. I forget her name, but they haven't. There is another chair now, and she seems good too. Wally, he's doing his thing. Basically, once Ronna McDaniel kind of left, I think that's when things picked up a little bit more.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Again, we have an RNC that wants to win. We finally have an RNC that like we like winning now, so we can actually do things. We're not just content with like winning every once in a while anymore. Now it's like, okay, let's keep it going.
The RNC has been notoriously bad at fundraising and stuff, but also execution. It's unbelievable how broke they were at like the beginning of last year. It's unbelievable. I think they had like $20 million or less.
Nothing.
The DNC's got like $1 billion war chest because they're all corrupt and they take all these kickbacks we talked about in the beginning of the show.
Because the DNC cultured a party that's pro censorship, pro anti free speech, pro censorship, very far left ideals, borderline socialism. Not even liberal anymore. Liberal, you can't call them liberals anymore. It's just leftist. You can't say liberal anymore. But Bill Maher is liberal. Bill Maher is like the liberal.
Well, so is Piers Morgan, and Piers Morgan is even like, what is wrong with these people?
Exactly. Like, actually, Piers Morgan and Riley Gaines did an interview with this with this trans activist. They did an interview with this trans activist, and the trans activist essentially said, "Yeah, let's combine the Olympics and the Paralympics."
Right. I saw that today.
It's ideas of nonsense and ideas that who would think of something like this? Makes no sense. No rational person would think of something like that. But then again, we're not talking about liberals anymore. We're talking about leftists. Very socialist, borderlining into communism. Just let the government take care of everything. But then someone comes in to check the government, like Musk and Doge, and they get mad. They get more mad at them than they are about what's actually the money's actually being spent on. It's ridiculous and it's stupid. These people are stupid, Graves.
They are.
And you know how I feel about stupid people.
Yes.
and very similar to you.
I was gonna say, as do I. I feel a certain way, and here's the thing: I actually try and enjoy debating liberals. I'll see a comment on TikTok or on Twitter. I don't really see them in person, but I'm constantly debating liberals in some way, pretty much, and. You know what they do? They say that we don't have the facts, that we are uneducated. And then when you actually bring out the facts, even without insulting them, they go straight to insults or just stop responding.
That's the thing. Like I've had very much friends that are definitely left, and like I've talked to them a couple things, and they kind of know my stances on everything. But we can at least talk about it. We may not agree, but we talk about it, which, I mean, I give credit where credit's due. But you get to other people that they set up a debate, you go to debate, they get mad you're debating, and then shut down the debate.
Yeah.
It's backwards.
No, it is.
But I digress. At the end of the day, at least so far right now, when we go into midterms, obviously it's still very early. We don't have everything that we would need and to be able to determine everything. But so far, we don't have as many seats to defend as Democrats do, which is a good thing. There's a few seats in the House we could flip. couple seats in the Senate we could flip, and maybe a governor seat or two that we can flip. It's just it's it's going to take a lot of effort and a lot of time to convince people and to inform voters what policies are good and what policies are bad. Do you want to have the policies of lower taxes, the government doesn't take all your money as much, or do you want to have policies where the government just takes your money and sends it to fund Sesame Street in Iraq? Again, why don't we talk about that one more? That's the one that I'm the most mad about. It's
we
it's
will.
so funny. It's
We
so
will.
funny, but it's so stupid.
No, it is. And, as we hit this 1 hour mark, I'm going to hit one more commercial break, and then we will wrap this episode up and talk about stuff like that. And welcome back from our last commercial break. We're just got a couple more things to talk about, and I'm really just going to kind of let Sam bring us into that. And Sam, I'll let you go.
We definitely went way over than we originally projected for this episode, Graves. I hope you realize that, just like I did.
I did.
Originally, it was like, let's just go like 30 minutes or something. It's been an hour.
Right.
But I mean, that's just kind of like what happens with us anyway. But honestly, with this election, and kind of like what I believe is going to happen in the future, is that this election had so much outside media playing a part in it. Like Kamala Harris went on Call Her Daddy, for example, went on a podcast, a very popular podcast within like the top 10, top 5 of Spotify. And Trump was doing anything. He was basically everywhere that he could be. He went on Joe Rogan. He went on Theo Vaughn. JD Vance did the same thing. Trump had opened the doors for all these alternative interview platforms that weren't mainstream media. He was on like Twitter Spaces. He did one with Elon, and I think he did another one with a crypto person, something like that. He did Logan Paul's Impulsive podcast. He leaned into TikTok. He leaned into social media of Gen Z, because we're becoming a voting age and trying to reach us in a different way. Obviously, people our age, we don't watch Fox, we don't watch CNN, we're on Twitter all day. And Twitter is becoming part of that media landscape now. Mm-hmm. And his administration opened the door in their press room for alternative media. You have people, I think Tim Pool was applying to get into the briefing room. You have One American News, Daily Wire has a person in there. It's a lot of the alternative media is now playing a part. Not only did it play a part in this election, it's going to play a part in all the elections, I think, going forward. And it's crazy.
That.
I think it's crazy to think about. That's just the reality of the situation now. It's all this alternative media, and all the influencers are playing a part. The DNC, they had their influencers too, just as the same as Republicans and conservatives. You had Harry Sisson and Chris Mowry and Dean Withers and a couple of other guys Parker, yeah. You had all those fools trying to reach like trying to bait men. For men, it's not cool to be a leftist. It's not cool to be a Democrat now. It was maybe cool, 10 years ago, whenever you wanted to rebel against your parents, but the new rebellion is being conservative and going against that culture. They tried to foster that culture, and being conservative is now counterculture.
It is.
It's crazy to think about. That's why Democrats had to build a white dudes for Harris coalition and a Republicans for Harris, whatever that means. I think it just means you're a rhino and you just want to go vote for a Democrat because you probably get a kickback.
Well, I wonder how many of those actual members of that were actual Republicans.
See,
I
I
feel
said the
like
same
most of them
thing.
were just saying
I said that
it.
I thought the same thing too, because you had like former like people like congressmen like Joe Walsh, Adam Kissinger, and Liz Cheney all joining the Kamala campaign.
Hmm.
It's really funny because I saw a tweet from Adam Kissinger. He was talking about Trump and talking about Putin or something. It's like you're standing with Putin, and then I basically tweeted, and Adam Kissinger stands with a guy who's running against Josh Hawley, by the way. Uh, Adam Kissinger stood with a guy that shot a reporter. So,
Oh,
oh yeah, they were at like a firing range, and a bullet, the shrapnel bounced back and like hit someone in the like hit him in the arm. It like grazed them, but still, the candidate shot a guy. At the end of the day, the Dem candidate in Missouri shot a guy, and Josh Hawley tweeted about it. He was like, "Guns don't shoot people. My opponent shoots people." That's kind of what that leads to. And you had Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney endorsing Kamala and hitting a trail with them. You had people like Jeff Duncan, who was the former lieutenant governor of Georgia, um, voting for Kamala Harris, and actually the Republican Party of Georgia kicked him out. Um, you just had all these different people playing these different roles, and Republicans just seemed to be more consistent in this election whenever it came to the culture and the new media landscape and how we just put our message out there versus the Democrats who tried to solve money by just try to solve problems by just throwing money at it. Kamala
yeah.
built Kamala Harris blew over $1 billion and still somehow ended up in debt.
Yeah, she what, $20 million in debt after
Yeah,
the
she blew like
elect.
billion and a half or something, and she ended up with 20 million in debt. I don't even know how that's possible.
They wanted her to run the whole country.
And Trump had what, 500 million?
I mean, it was definitely at least half. I mean, it could have been lower than 500 mil, but he also has his own money, which he used some of, but not a whole lot because the man was raking in. I think before they did a corrupt fundraising event for Kamala, Trump set the record for donations in one night with like 20, 30 million in one day or something. And then they had a corrupt one with all their, billionaires and people from overseas with their shell accounts and, wire transfers. But
It is what it is. But I think to try to hammer my point in a little bit is that Republicans and conservatives won this time because we understood the culture and we understood what actually mattered, and having to stick to the issues that mattered of inflation and lowering costs, securing the border, cracking down on crime. And it's not stuff that it's going to happen immediately. It's going to take a little bit of time for all this stuff to kick in and go into an effect. But we had just common sense issues, and Democrats were worried about pronouns and
mm-hmm.
um, pushing for gun control, and commonly even admitting that we would have to raise taxes. And they
Yeah,
wanted her in charge of a country, in charge of a whole country.
yeah. And how Democrats say that Trump only wants to do tax cuts for the rich. Well, look, I'm at least old enough to remember that when he did the tax cuts the first time, yeah, the rich got a little bit of a tax cut, but so did the middle class. The middle class also got a little bit more in benefits. Like there were more programs, that people with children, what the child tax credit went up. I mean, so people in the middle class, along with getting tax cuts, also still got those benefits. So it's just, why the Democrats went from rage against the machine to let's raise taxes and make it harder for everybody, and we're going to ignore inflation. And yeah, men can play in women's sports, and yeah, you can change your gender. You can be a cat if you want to. If you want to be a moose, go ahead. I mean, they've gone so far left, and they still don't even see why they lost. It's not about, oh, the fact that eggs have gone up under Trump. You know why they went up? One is the bird flu. Two is Biden, the administration there, I guess the EPA or whatever would do that, said, let's kill 100 million chickens because of this bird flu. Eggs are going to keep going up. That happened in like November. So, yes, they're going to go up for a while.
It's gonna take a little bit before they come back down.
Yeah, do you think that those chickens can just, or I guess they, not you, but I guess they think those chickens just magically reappear, they respawn,
I don't know.
and start having
We're talking
eggs
about
again.
Democrats at this point. They can maybe think I lay an egg because if I say I'm a chicken or something like that. I think that's
Yeah,
kind of the reality of the Democrat Party is you can be whatever you want as long as you just ignore any scientific evidence possible.
yeah. And that's kind of what my last point was, was just that the Democrats are acting this way. It's why they lost, because they've gone so far left. And then not even to mention the spending that they were doing, the fraud, the kickbacks, whatever else you want to say. It's also that they haven't learned anything. But we can't use that as fuel to just say, all right, they're so bad, they're so out of touch that we can't do anything. We have to legitimately keep fighting for it. In every state, especially New Jersey, Virginia, places that we've made gains in. But then even in the red states that are solidly red usually, don't just give up there either. Mississippi, by the way, is in, I think, number 11 in the country in future economic, you know,
opportunities.
Yeah, opportunity, like future economic growth. We're number 11 in the state or in the country. So these red states that are starting to do better and people are starting to wake up, keep doing the stuff that we've been doing. Don't just give up because we're comfortable. We can never be comfortable. I'm telling you, those people are a machine. That's why they got $1 billion.
Well,
So,
I think to hammer in your point a little bit more, it's funny because you talk about the red states opening up opportunities. The headquarters of In-N-Out burger chain out west. You and I, we lived out west. We know In-N-Out
mm-hmm.
very well. Their headquarters was leaving San Diego. I think they're going to like Texas or something. They moved their
Nice.
headquarters. They're moving their headquarters. They're a company that started on the West Coast, and mind you, they're not the only company that have done that either. SpaceX and Tesla,
Mm-hmm.
I think both of them anyway. They left Texas, or they left California and went to Texas. There's another companies that have left. Uh, Jeff Bezos got out of Seattle, went down south. It's all the red states that have the opportunity, and all these blue states are dying because of high taxes and high crime and just overall just horrible leadership on the state level.
Yeah.
The federal level also they're bad too, but the state level especially is where they die. It's just how like the wildfires in California could have easily been prevented had they actually cleared all the brush and everything. And you had insurance companies leaving because hey, we can't guarantee this policy because this could easily catch fire. We need you to do something about this, and they just wouldn't do it. And that's why the companies left because it's like we're going to lose money. So everything's a business. True. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's blue state policies that will drive down your state. But that's what they want. But they keep pushing because then just let the state take care of it. Let the government take care of it. You know, it's the same thing as being complacent. Don't be complacent. So if you want to get involved and make sure your state continues that red trend and continues the a trend of lowering taxes and lowering costs and increasing safety, cracking down on crime, get involved. Go volunteer with your local GOP, state party. Go volunteer. Help register voters. Scott Presser, again, like I said earlier, kind of helped Trump win Pennsylvania, and that's just because he was doing voter registration in Pennsylvania. Now he's doing the same thing in Jersey and Pennsylvania still at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Go help register people, inform voters of the policies that matter, and that's how you win. Is just by being aggressive. Don't be complacent. Be aggressive. If you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly bear. That's the coolest bear, and that's the strongest and toughest one. So if you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly bear.
You know who said it perfectly is Ronald Reagan, because he said, if fascism ever comes to America, it will come in the form of liberalism. I'll tell you something else that people don't really know. In the 2000s, in Germany itself, they changed the definition of, and this is going around the world too. It started there, but it's part of. It'll make sense when I finish. But they said the definition of fascism is right wing. You know how many times you've heard that? You can only be a fascist if you're right wing. Hitler was a left wing. He was socialist. They changed the definition of fascism. Now, people don't want to talk about the socialism part because it's so easy to understand, but they want to talk about the exact definition where they say it's only right wing that can be authoritarian and fascism. Okay, well, left wing, socialism, left wing, Marxism, left wing, communism. What are we doing here? We are a constitutional republic, and we have been brainwashed, not us, but America has been brainwashed by the Department of Education, going back to what we've been saying earlier, thanks to changes that originated in Germany. And now everybody thinks that, oh, yeah, we're all Nazis. You know how many times I've been called that? It's crazy.
Probably a good amount, I would say, anyway.
Yeah, regular debate, just tell them, like, you could say, we shouldn't be sending money to Israel or Palestine. Oh, so you're a Nazi? What? That doesn't even make sense.
America's got a lot of problems, and I understand. We got to help people out, but we also got to help ourselves out too. That's where I think I want to try to end my thoughts on any of that. Is we've got our problems too. We can't always help everybody. We can try, certainly try to, be there for people, but it's time America puts itself first for a change, and that's the whole point of America First, is putting America first.
Yeah, it's pretty simple.
So people don't get it. I don't know why. They're busy sending $20 million for Sesame Street in Iraq, and in the case of states like California, asking money for fire relief, which again you could have prevented, but you spent all your money to help illegal immigrants. Yeah. But again, that's just my point, or my opinion.
Well, we agree on that, and
I would assume we would, Graves, especially after having we lived together. I would assume we agree on most things anyway. But yeah,
and on the West Coast, we had to endure that when Clark County was even more blue than it is now. So
exactly.
But
well,
ladies and gentlemen, I feel like it's been a pretty good episode. If you did listen this far into it, we appreciate it. Sam and I, we try to do the best we can when we have to do it alone. We're kind of used to having Harrison to prompt us into things. So we do appreciate all the support. Share it to all your friends. Keep fighting for this country. Sam, as always, I appreciate you coming on, helping me out. And, we're just getting started. We're only a month into the Trump presidency. We got another almost 4 years to go. So let's keep it going. Let's keep making America great. And thank you for tuning in to the Conservative Colonel podcast.
Great to have been here. Thanks for having me, everybody. Bring me back.
Hey, you'll be back. You will be back soon.
I'll be back. I'll get a text message. It'll be good. It's always fun, though.
Just like tonight, I just randomly was like, yo, can you help me?
And again, we definitely doubled over than what we originally intended. But I think that honestly just kind of, once you start riffing with everything and you get in these topics and you go on these tangents, come back to the point of whatever was going on in the first place. It's organic, and you can't
Yeah.
fake organic.
Yeah, I mean, we have the talking points, but we end up, you remember what else happened and you just keep going. So,
Exactly. But
for the people, y'all need to listen to everything that we said. None of this is rooted in, false information. Sam does this for a living, and I do somewhat, just not on the research side necessarily, but I still do my research. So, we wouldn't lie to you. YouTube, don't flag us. But again, thank you all for tuning in, and we will see y'all next week.